working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Roy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for you is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for you.
Good afternoon, and I welcome you to another Working for You program. I am your host, Roy Williams. Wherever you are joining us, we thank you very much for tuning in to this program. I have with me as my esteemed guests today 3 members of the St. Kitts and Nevis Coalition of Service Industries, CSI. I have with me on my left Mr. Lena Bwana, who is chairperson of the executive of the Coalition of Service Industries. I have Ms. Onua, who is consultant for the Coalition of Service Industries, and I have Mr. Rodney Brown, who is a task force member of the Coalition of Service Industries. My esteemed guests, welcome to this program.
Thank you, Mr. Roy Williams.
Thank you.
Services, of course, play an important role in the St. Kitts and Nevis economy. We have moved away from being an agrarian economy to much extent because sugar is no longer the mainstay of our economy, but rather we are now a service-based economy heavily reliant on the tourism and other service sectors. The majority of the workforce is now employed in the service industry. Today we are going to have a discussion, of course, on how important the service industry is to the St. Kitts and Nevis economy. But before we go there, I would like my esteemed guests to give me some background in terms of who they are. Mr. Bwana, I will start with you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lena Bwana, which is who I am presently the president of the St. Kitts Nevis Building Contractors Association, which has given me the privilege to serve and to be the chair of this St. Kitts Nevis Coalition of Service and Industry. And our main goals are to take the challenges that are ahead on us. The world is now a global village, and St. Kitts has to play its part as our Ministry of International Trade, normally and continuously to sign on and protocols to which we have to abide by, and remembering our citizens' life and the rights to a good standard of living. At this point in time, I will just like to remind the St. Kitts Nevis public that the Coalition of Services are not just a name, but each service that we provide would be hinged on bringing all people collectively rather than fragmentally under one umbrella. Which means people in the IT, we are expecting them to organize themselves through the Ministry of Culture to take the opportunities that the European market is granting to the entire Caribbean and the world.
Okay. We're going to get into all of that a bit later. I just want to give a little bit of background in terms of yourself.
Yeah, and with me is the consultant Ms. Telly Onua, who will be explaining and taking the country on a plane ride of knowledge and information, and Mr. Rodney Brown, who is intimately involved in seeing this umbrella organization stand as a pillar in seeing the change in the economy as we move forward. Good afternoon, Lena Bwana.
Okay, Miss Onua, could you tell us something about yourself?
Okay, I am Telly Onua, Telly Valerie Onua. I am the Managing Director for Quintessence Consulting, Inc. Also a founder for a small foundation called Innovate the Next. I've had the privilege of providing a number of programs for entrepreneurship development and innovation in the Federation over the last few years. One of which would have been the Pitch It Caribbean, that's Caribbean Mobile Innovation Program, which is funded by the Canadian government, implemented through the World Bank, and that was for tech startups. I'm also currently implementing a women acceleration program for St. Kitts and Nevis. This targets women who are in the growth stage of their business, maybe 1 or 2 years in, and we focus on a full 8-month program, taking them from where they are to the point where they can be scalable and export ready. And then, of course, then we also are involved with another program around climate innovation and those type of startups. My involvement with the coalition, I was privileged to support the coalition. First, it happened 2 years ago when I was contracted through Caribbean Export to prepare a strategy to help revive and launch the coalition. And since then, post that consultancy, I've been providing support to the task force.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Rodney Brown, Managing Director of eCaribbean Limited, which is a web services firm. I've been in the IT digital media business for the past 20 years, since around 1997. So I've seen startups, Caribbean-wise, local-wise, come up, try a thing, get frustrated, all that. I'm also the owner of, speaking of startups, a startup called OECS.biz, which seeks to be a business platform for the OECS region. So that ties in a lot with the SK and CSI in terms of a shared goal of having businesses see more of a regional approach as a local approach. So when you're thinking local, don't just think about where the beach meets the sea. It's now we have to interconnect all these different islands and think of it as a local to global. But local, you have to expand the local aspect of it in the first instance. So my input is really around the ICT based and business development area.
Okay. Good, thank you. Now, the Coalition of Service Industries, who are you? What is your role?
Well,
how are you creating greater public awareness of the major role that services play in the local economy and, as Mr. Brown mentioned, the global economy?
Let us don't forget that the St. Kitts Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce has been an organization that controls and makes sure that the service industry in St. Kitts over the years, over the many years, from since way back when we had our sugar exporting, and we used to import plenty of the raw materials for the suppliers like John Gums, Hasford, TDC, etc. So Chamber of Industry and Commerce have already set the stage and the platform for any other organization to follow or to be a part of. But as the world has changed and we are now fully globalized, we are offering the world service. We are wishing the world, encouraging the world to visit St. Kitts as a tourist destination. Many services are being granted And one of the areas for we to acknowledge and get a space in the world is to unify ourselves, have all the different services fall under an umbrella, and we will be able to offer the world in a more organized manner. Now, as Rodney spoke, the OECS in itself has been working hard to be recognized. CARICOM is no less. St. Kitts, as I said earlier in my opening remarks, ministers of government, especially Minister of Trade, International Trade and Tourism, and then when they go abroad, most of them have to be signing on protocols. And in signing on protocols, they are opening up doors coming in and going out. But because we are a small nation and does not have the necessary infrastructure to a lot of the industries and services, we are to be minded that we have to get ourselves prepared and ready to meet the challenges. And in doing that, I just want to remind my citizens that there is the EPA that is coming on stream on the 1st of January 2018, to which we will see a major influx of businesses from Europe. Like I said before, they will not be coming here to operate in a whole big building, but their services would be very much seen. And what we are trying to do from St. Kitts through the Ministry of International Trade is get our people up and ready. And some of the areas that we are now pushing forward, which is not being handled properly, are the arts and music. And Telly would elaborate on that a little later. IT is a little bit fragmented, and we expect to have it coming together shortly with all the support from the ministry. Sure. And we are trying to, as a coalition, to get a lot of policies, and strength is in numbers. And once we have numbers, we will be able to get each ministers of government to sit with us, understand what we want, where do we want to go, and we would understand what the outer world wants from us. So on that point, I would step there and let one of my other colleagues say something.
Well, just to piggyback on some of the things that Mr. Bwana mentioned, he referenced ICT. It is true, as an ICT member, I take no pride in highlighting that we don't have an association. There have been attempts over the years, unsuccessfully. So, big part of the coalition's mandate is to almost be like a big brother to these struggling, fragmented areas that need to form associations. So we expect out of the mandate and the activities of the SKNCSI that very soon we would have an ICT association established, a creative industries association established, and on, because the core part of it is that it is a coalition of service industries. Yes. So we have a number of service industries that we have lined up that we want to then approach them, assist them as much as possible. So those are some of the benefits in terms of explaining to these different businesses that, you know, you can't just be an isolated business out there thinking that, well, maybe your business is doing well. No. But when it really gets hectic, it plays to your advantage to be a part of an association, and a wider association being a part of a coalition. So those are some of the things that we want to stress and explain to interested persons who may be seeking to get deeper into business, especially services as an export.
Would you like to just share anything on that?
Just to add and to give context, background to it, your introduction kind of touched on the reason why we're here, in that goods have been declining and services have obviously been rising. At the level of CARICOM, or CARIForum, that was recognized a number of years ago. And at the time when they started the negotiations for services for this economic partnership agreement, one of the recommendations they had given was to CARICOM was that there needs to be a much more focused effort on the growth of services. So you've always had different agencies like chambers of commerce and so on that deal with private sector in general, which is great. But then there has never ever been a focused effort that focused on the growth of services. Now let's put it into our context. St. Kitts and Nevis, over 70% of our GDP comes from services, but yet we haven't really focused more, and I think we could scale that number to nearly 150% or more. So there's a lot of potential for growth if we're a little bit more targeted in how we develop our economy and how we foster the growth engine. So all the heads of government had signed on to blessing these coalitions for years and years, and we're happy to say we came on stream last year, January, and we are currently in the process of operationalizing, as Rodney would have mentioned and Mr. Warner would have mentioned. As an umbrella association, we're able to kind of provide umbrella support on the regulatory aspects. There's still a lot of gaps that some of these industries have issues with that need to be streamlined for them to effectively trade effectively. Then also, apart from regulatory, supporting the regulatory and so on, development, ICT. I also personally have an IT head. I straddle different industries, IT, management, consulting, and so on. And it is very fragmented, yet everybody uses technology. Yet we have an industry where we have people working in it and not united. It's highly fragmented. A lot of the companies import software, import services, yet the pool is here. We don't know who they are, we don't know where they are, but they're quiet because IT people like to work by themselves. And then we've reached an area where, in order to take advantage of opportunities, not just even at home, but regionally and extra-regionally with the EPA, you have to find a mechanism where we come under an umbrella to cooperate and be efficient. So those are some of the things. The creative industry, as we have also identified, highly fragmented, and I think IT will be a subset of that when you think of people who make software and develop things, musicians and so on. Right now you have the bands going off and doing their thing, but it could be actually much more concerted. And then what we've also recognized is a lot of people in the creative sectors, while it is fragmented, it's also informal. You know, and using this coalition, it can actually help to foster that development of organizing each of these sectors to be much more coordinated.
So you're an umbrella organization.
Correct.
You're the voice, for example, the service industries. You're a coalition. Coalition speaks to collaboration, cooperation.
Correct.
And you're staffed. Of course. I'm interested in knowing who are your members, and what are their broad range and diversity in the local service economy. Who are your members?
The task force members are comprised of a number of people, but most of them were from the IT section. As we said, the fragmented group. The same thing we have in some of the other areas, but we can definitely speak the Contractors Association.
So you have from contractors
association.
You have ICT.
Yeah, we have
architects.
The Institute of Architects, which the person who sits on the task force is supposed to be Alvaranga, who is employed by Brisbane, Alvaranga, and Ogaro, BOA. Then there is the Institute of Engineers, and there are some others that...
What about banking?
No, we have not reached out to banking. Banking is an association, but we have not reached them to get them under the umbrella yet.
Insurance.
None of them.
But
So one of the things, Mr. William, we were fighting to get a little background history for you. St. Kitts Nevis has attempted a few times, but it's either the leadership was a little bit soft or never 100% committed to service. Well, I, Lena Bwana, have committed myself, and I've put 4 pillows in position, to which we are on the last pillow, which would be completed on Friday.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit more about these 4 pillars?
We had to be fully incorporated on the law books in St. Kitts. We had done that.
So that is 1 pillar.
That is 1 pillar. We went off to St. Lucia to make sure that we were fully acknowledged by the OECS and the Caribbean head office. We have done everything. We have met the 3rd pillar with fully tying up with the Ministry of International Trade and the Minister, to which all the acknowledgement and little funding support. And the 4th one is the official launch, where the country of St. Kitts and Nevis would recognize the umbrella organization and what we stand for, sure, and what we can offer.
Okay, good. Now, you spoke to some of your members. A lot of what is driving services today has to do with ICT.
Correct.
Of course, in a globalized world, globalization, a world without borders.
Yes.
ICT is really fundamental and pushing it. Now, in terms of e-services,
correct,
e-commerce, where are you in terms of this? I know that the government, for example, has recognized this and is trying and has implemented a portal that is supposed to be driving e-commerce, e-services, and so on, doing business online. Because the World Bank doing business report, you're familiar with that, right?
Correct.
The ease of doing business.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You know, that is extremely,
well,
and I think, yes, go ahead.
When you touch on the ease of doing business, one of the indicators is registering your business, formalizing it, becoming more professional. And I believe through the coalition umbrella, we could sensitize to a lot of people who are in these different industries that first and foremost, you need to get yourself sorted.
Yes.
Get yourself registered, and I believe the government has done quite a lot in terms of reducing the times to register your business and the timelines. I believe maybe for some industries there could be some revision on the different codes that they fall under, business, occupational licenses, and so on. But I mean, that is to come. We have to know, we have to get feedback on what the issues are so we can raise it. So, but that is one indicator. E-commerce is fundamental, and e-commerce, when you talk about trade and services, they have different modes for you to trade.
Yes.
Mode 1 is trading across borders. You don't have to leave St. Kitts Nevis for you to export your services.
Sure.
You could be on your computer, you can access, you could ship your goods and even your services virtually. So definitely, even the initiative that individually, like Rodney has done to actually facilitate a portal for trade across the OECS is an example of certain things. And I think a lot of the startups we have in St. Kitts and Nevis have different little initiatives. So I think one of the areas that the coalition can help is to increase the visibility and promotion for these companies and so on, to make them more visible, to drive that. That's on the one end. On the other end, some of the programs that the coalition will bring to St. Kitts and Nevis will be training programs to be export ready. We're currently working on securing license to roll out a program called Services Go Global, which is an export development program. Within that, ICT is a fundamental component, because if you're looking at other non-tech businesses, everybody needs technology to grow. So that is a part of a component. So training is one of the key areas we'll be using to raise also awareness on how to do it, because some people just don't know how. We also are going to be promoting very specifically for this the creative sector, and under that, music. We already have a program called the Business of Music. It is a virtual program. We're currently discussing internally as a task force on how best we can roll it out and sync it to be more effective, and obviously how many times we can roll it out in the year. But the Business of Music Online follows the same path for export readiness and export development, in terms of covering everything from intellectual property to how to research your market, how to prepare yourself, how to professionalize your business. Because while we have people who are in the industry and they've been in it for years, they may not necessarily have gone officially to train. And even on the business side, they might know all the technical skills of how, sound engineering, videography, but then to really develop and roll out a business that can scale and be exported is an area that they need to do that. So we have quite a lot on our plate that we will be on offer post our launch. So you have to keep tuned and keep
you can talk a little bit more
about all those other things.
The specifics of it.
Correct.
And so on.
And then, of course, raising awareness on other forms of trade.
Sure.
For example, linkages with the tourism industry is key. Because when tourists come in, they can buy a service. That's also regarded as an export.
Yeah, so that leads me to my next question, which is, how is the coalition enhancing bilateral services, trading relationships? How are you ensuring competitive service trade in the global marketplace?
Well, you just mentioned.
I think I mentioned the training. Services go global.
That's a big part of it.
It's really part of the quality.
Because let's be real. A big part of our challenges as a country is mindset, and a lot of people are either they just can't see beyond St. Kitts Nevis in terms of thinking that they can offer something beyond the local market, or they're just not interested for whatever reason. And we being the collective, we have to do a lot of work in terms of adjusting that mindset, understanding that in the discussion yesterday, we acknowledge that St. Kitts is small, but it's also very attractive. Attractive in the sense that you have a lot of people looking at St. Kitts, looking at opportunities in St. Kitts Nevis, and attempting to see how they can make a living by doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are absorbing a lot of interest, but we are not in turn developing the resources to then seek interest on the outside, as i.e. export. So we can't be comfortable thinking, okay, the economy may not be as great as we would like it, but it's better than a lot of other economies in the region. So we may be in a complacent mindset where we figure, well, people are coming here, so something good must be here. So I'm good here. But you don't know when things are going to shift. You have to now be making linkages on the outside, exporting your services, understanding what is in demand on the outside, and position yourself accordingly. So we have a lot of work to do, and the coalition is committed to assisting as much as possible with not necessarily changing the mindset, but kind of honing it and shaping it to where we need to go.
And building partnerships to do it, because we can't do it alone.
Sure. Right. While I understand that whole aspect of linkages, networking, building partnerships, and so on one hand, we have to get our house in order.
For sure.
One, as a nation, as a region, and so on. If we are to compete globally, because the competition is fierce. I know that CARICOM has recently come up with the CARICOM's Community Public Procurement Notice Board. How do you see this in terms of helping the services sector within CARICOM?
Very, very, very interesting question, Mr. William. But before I respond to that question, I want to say something to you. I want to just bring you up to date that, as Rodney Brown just said, unproductive relationship in any sector restrict organization freedom and development for lucrative alliances. The lack of strategic fit in terms of completing capacities, general lack of trust between partner firms coming together to, in our culture, people are not trusting one another to come together, and it isn't going to get us anywhere. And we be inappropriate alliance government with governance system and the lack of knowledge in exchange of processes. Now, I just simply want to say, let us simply, I'm going to piggyback for one moment. As the President of the Contractors Association, when I first joined the Contractors Association, the names of Vincent Morton and Associate, Bertil Odin and Drinkins and the Warner Construction, Mr. Arnold Warner, there was people, you was afraid to come up against. You never sure where you're going to fit. But Bertil Odin and Neil Heiliger spent a lot of time encouraging me. And when I joined them that time, they used to meet at the University Center. And by, one of the things that I grew to appreciate about joining the Contractors Association was training. There was plenty training, and it is still available. And I am of the view that for people to grow, and for people to understand and change the fear, there must be training that their mind can be cleared. And more I have seen the further deterioration in the construction industry. We have a lot of Indians that are called chief. In calculation of a lot of the, if you step imperial, some could answer. But when you go metric, there is loss. Like I said to you yesterday in the pre-qualifying for projects is a major challenge, and sometimes when some people do get past the pre-qualification, the question are, who helped them? Because most of the firms, most of the name builders in St. Kitts are not really firms that are properly registered. And I will like to see the day that our government, whether it is government of the day or the government of tomorrow, start acknowledging that if they is good enough to be ministers, we are good enough to take on bigger projects. If they are good enough to sit with the big EU people, we are good enough to meet with them too. Now, one of the problems that I have, the continuous fragmentation and the division, the decisiveness, the deliberateness of the ministers of government choosing and handpicking, giving people who are not, who cannot even hold their own as a top tradesman, jobs to build. Some of them they do not even understand the terms. As simple as some of the drawings them are, the sheet with all the specs, they don't see it. They doesn't see it. They doesn't know it. And I really want, with the change of technology, with the amount of things that is happening in St. Kitts, the transfer of technology is not happening. When you look at what is happening down at the southeast with Park Hyatt, it's one set of foreigners now are there. And it has a lot to do with because our people are not grasping the opportunity also, and who are fighting for the opportunity and who are taking the chances of training and committing themselves are being marginalized. The last thing I want to say to you that we the Contractors Association have got a serious problem with is that Christopher Harbour, it is a South Africa. It's a South Africa. And this is what our forefathers fought for? This is what Bell and Drinkins and Arnold Warner and Ross and them fight for in this industry? I don't think so. But to step back a little bit, Mr. Williams, I would want to simply say that we are fighting to get our people ready, because we are seeing opportunities. We are seeing plenty, but we are leaving ourselves to be second-class citizens in our federation.
Okay. Now, of course, in the age of globalization and trading across borders, free movement of people, movement of money across borders, and so on, and part of globalization we have realized is that in terms of our development as small island developing states, and the whole concept that was put forward by Sir Arthur Lewis, of course, that of industrialization by invitation, we have a lot of multinationals that come into the local economy, and they have their part to play. Most of them are service-based. For example, the Burger King, the KFC, the Marriott, the Park Hyatt, and all of these other multinationals, insurance companies, banks, and so on. I think the question that must be asked is, there's no doubt that in some ways they are helping our service sector. But on the other hand, what are they doing to really help to train our people within the service sector?
That's a very good question. I think we have, as a region, we've always focused on foreign direct investment to help grow our economies, which is good, but then you tend not to find the spillovers that you really want in the area of capacity building. And I think for us to try and change, we have to just change it a little bit, where we can then start encouraging more strategic alliances with foreign direct investment. So in other words, you can, because maybe, as you said, movement of capital, and in our region, movement of capital is still, it's still very bank-centric. We haven't really developed venture capital the way we see it. So there are benefits of having strategic alliances with foreign direct investors to help grow your economy. And so, but that has to happen at the policy level. So when you have whichever ministry or programs that deal with investment promotion and so on, there's supposed to be an investment code that states and indicates a certain amount of partnership should be encouraged and so on. And government can actually provide extra incentives for even the foreign direct investors as part of their incentive packages for when they actually partner with a local firm. This way, there's a lot of knowledge transfer, there's technology transfer ensured, as well as training. So that could be one strategy. But then the other component is sometimes you can't stop them from coming in, but what can we do to prepare people to get in? I know the government has committed itself to implementing the TVET program, which I think is really fundamental, because what Mr. Warner is talking about with the Park Hyatt and the people employed, I mean, if you're applying for a job and they're looking for a tradesman, and you have someone coming in from Jamaica, because Jamaica started preparing earlier. They have the Heart Trust there that certifies people and gives them competency-based assessments and everything. So they've been doing it for the last 20 years. We just come in the last shower of rain, So within that context, when they want a tradesman and you have these people can show them their competencies and everything, then it means, okay, well, here you're telling me you worked for 3-4 people, you have a little paper just saying you work for so-and-so, but it doesn't tell me how competent you are. So where you have now an employer faced with 2 types of employment, naturally they're going to go with the man who has paper to show he can do what he
certified.
has to say. Who's certified, exactly. And so you're finding through this certification process, more and more are coming in. So our market is already open.
Now,
what are we doing to at least try and get ourselves? So even if the government's committed to that, I still think individually we have to commit to also investing ourselves to try and get ahead in our own professions.
Sure.
You know, so I think it's
balancing that.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but
Rodney.
Mr. Warner, though, I just want to put a disclaimer that, of course, this is a government program, and the view that you expressed about Christopher Harbour being a South Africa is not the view of the government. I just want to make that known.
It's not the view of the CSI either. He was speaking for himself.
He was speaking.
I just want to make that clear, Mr. Warner. Okay, but I do have another question, though. Of course, maybe some of the key areas, you know, you've highlighted international trade, investment, regulatory policy, electronic commerce, and statistics improvement.
Oh, yes. Data collection.
Data collection and analysis, of course. But in terms of international trade, regional trade, what is being done to remove barriers to service trade? I know we have the revised Treaty of Bastille. We have the CARICOM Single Market and Economy. And, you know, we have the CARICOM Skill Certificate and all of that. What is really being done?
Well, you mentioned that we have the essentially the agreements already.
We have those. They're there in terms of policy.
Correct.
But at the very same time, you have something as policy. But sometimes
it takes a generation for policy to become.
You might have the policy.
Yes.
You might have the policy, but you have to look at it from implementation and what is being done. And you know, sometimes you don't even know what the technical trade barrier is until someone reports it. So I think with us as a coalition, one of the capacities we hope to develop will be that capacity to be able to, you know, report your incidences and so on. So at least over time, we have a picture of what type of technical trade barriers there are. And that is even from just trading within. What about when people decide to start venturing out and traveling? Now we can travel throughout Europe without any visa issues and restrictions. So already from that perspective, we already have the market access. But then we will never know if anything happens unless someone complains about it. So having that complaint system and so on, it's not going to happen immediately, but over time we just need to provide a mechanism for that, and then we can look at alternative dispute resolution mechanisms so that we can address it. But the policies are there for that, regulation is there, but you only really have to do it through implementation of programs.
And sensitization and education.
Education, yeah.
If you were to go into town and just stop the random 100 persons on 4th Street or wherever and ask them about the OECS, what do they think they need to travel to, say, Antigua or St. Lucia if they're going to work, or if they want to relocate with their family? Do they actually know? I mean, the information is there, it's been available, but would they know? And whose fault is it that they don't know? Is it that more effort needs to be made to ensure that the nationals within the scope or within this sphere of the OECS, just mention the OECS as an example, that we understand what advantages exist in the freedom of movement and what our rights are? So the advantages and the rights. A lot of us were totally ignorant. Totally ignorant.
Yes, we are. And apart from being ignorant, that has to do with knowledge. But you have to look at attitudes also.
Right, mindset.
And the mindset, attitudes, and to remove barriers to service trade, for example. Mr. Warner touched on some of it. He said that we have a lot of foreigners here.
It could be one.
We have a lot of foreigners here who are working over at the Park Hyatt and so on. Now, have we ever considered that these people are here because of the policy
Correct.
of our government, CARICOM and so on?
And
they may have a CARICOM skill certificate,
Correct.
Exactly.
which
Correct.
entitles them to move and to work.
Correct. I was about to say,
you.
to be fair to them, once it's not an illegal case and you have the right, it is, again, we may be totally ignorant when we see all these quote-unquote foreigners coming in and figure out what's going on here. But
Yeah,
if
but
it is, once it's not an illegal movement, in that they have a right once they're in here, you know, what can you do but prepare yourself accordingly and ensure that you're prepared to compete?
Yeah, but a barrier to service trade is basically our attitude of being xenophobic.
Yeah.
We take sometimes not kindly to having foreigners, or we feel as though we are going to be inundated. Flooded with foreigners, and so therefore it's going to stifle the local economy. It's going to stifle locals getting jobs and all of that. So all of those things that we have to consider, because we are very small countries. You have the bigger countries like Jamaica and of course Trinidad and Guyana and so on. But we are really concerned in terms of.
But you know, I think it comes down to, again, sensitization, as Rodney would have put it. If people understand why on earth did we sign on to the OECS, for example, as, you know, the first block, it's really to provide expanded opportunities. Because when you are a nation, you have a population of 55,000, there's only so much you could do in terms of business, in terms of, you know, trade and so on. There's always going to be not enough jobs available within this space. But now when you come together, which is what the countries have done, is come together and band together, you now have a broader market. So even recently, you have with the OECS has now another member with Martinique. We have access to the EU now. So your market isn't only here anymore. But I agree with you. The mindset is, I'm home. I'm comfortable home. So how do we now kind of reprogram and retrain and re-socialize persons to think beyond St. Kitts and Nevis as home?
Right. And how do you get somebody? I know you want to say something, Mr. Warner, but let me say this. How do you get somebody, for example, in St. Kitts? We hear that we are one of the best performing economies in the ECU, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and so on. Do you really believe that our people would want to move to go to another country that is not performing as well?
Not move and leave, but expand.
To expand.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but then that is the thing.
That's
We're not
when you
saying
expand.
move and leave, you know.
Right.
We're saying
Your base
develop, create, grow,
export.
expand. So you can still have your base here, but expand. How to take advantage of more opportunities. You don't necessarily have to leave.
I don't.
Mr. Warner.
I really want to respond to two things Mr. Williams said. First, one, I did not say what I said about South Africa being a Christopher Harbour in the most negative way, but it is a position that petitions in the construction industry at the top, in meaning contractors are not being given a fair chance down there. Trademen are being given a chance down there. And then the other end with the Jamaicans...
Yeah, but South Africa conjures up certain things if we know the history. So
well, Nelson Mandela have made it a little change, so there's a little bit of difference now. Anyway, let's go on. Sorry for that. But let me say that the Jamaicans, the Guyanese, and other Caribbean brothers and sisters that are here, I don't see it negatively. What I would have preferred to acknowledge that up until now, the St. Kitts Nevis Building Contractors Association has not been given one moment to sit with these developers, investors. Now government have not given us a chance to hear what is requested. And that is why I said earlier that the continuous fragmentation and the politicians of government who continue to create further fragmentation is not helping the country in its true development.
Okay.
And that end. The next thing I want to say is that the St. Kitts Nevis and Anguilla Technical College need a serious overhaul.
The technical college.
The technical college, which is a wing now of the CFB.
Yes, yeah. The technical division.
We are not producing any real craft people anymore. And that is a serious reflection on the country in all form and fashion. And when we look at what the young people are seeking to be involved in, are it very productive and does it bring back financial when everybody is asking the government for concession? When some companies like contractors have to be meeting all taxes, how much could a small country like St. Kitts give back to everybody?
Okay.
That's number two. Number three, I am hopeful that at the end of this program, Mr. William, that the people in authority, the technocrats, would have acknowledged what I'm saying here now. For too long, you just go down by the inland revenue and you pay for a professional and occupational license that covers almost everything in the country. Different to a medical doctor who has to get a paper from the association to show. It is time for government to look at restructuring that tax area for they can make money. They can make money. And we need to categorize who are builders in what. Years ago, you had to register with Public Works and in what category you fit, both from contractors to subcontractors in all areas. That has been kicked, not at the goal, but to an area where no gold are, no gold poles are. We need to seriously look at what is going on in the industry if we are to encourage our people to go outside of our borders. If government in itself are not prepared to help venture project, to help some of us that have the capabilities to grow. Like yesterday, I think I said, the St. Kitts CFB gives out at least 6 to 10 architectural students. Yeah. Where does they end up? And it is a serious problem.
Okay. Now, Mr. Warner, these are some of the issues, the service issues and so on,
yes,
that you would have encountered as being a part of the CSI. Now, my question is, what do you do when you come together as a coalition, you discuss these issues? What sort of a plan does the CSI have in terms of taking these issues forward to be addressed?
I think, Mr. William, I said earlier that in my early presentation, I said strength is in numbers. And that is why we are trying to get all the fragmented services. And once we would have able to get
collaboration
and the cooperation, then we are able to present proposal and make requests of government. I have had 2 meetings with Minister Grant, the coalition of service and members of the PS, at a matter of fact, and 1 or 2 staff. And I think that these are what we want in order to move forward. And
so basically you need to develop position papers and letters to public officials, testimony and so on, which I think would be a part of the CSI. Am I not correct,
Right.
Miss Onu?
Yeah.
Have you thus far developed any sort of a position paper? Have you written any letter to public officials with your concerns?
Well, what we had started doing is, in support of the operationalization of the coalition itself, we had a stakeholder consultation where we kind of got all the stakeholders to raise the different issues and challenges, and that has been documented and informed our strategic plan and also now our working plan.
Okay.
So we have that was shared, and so as Mr. Warner indicates, it's going to be a work in progress, and we can't target all the sectors of focus. So within our work plan, we have decided to prioritize at least one or two sectors of focus for a particular quarter as we move forward. So our sectors of focus moving forward, at least for this year, would be the creative services sector. One, because of a lot of the low-hanging fruit opportunities that are available to them regionally, extra-regionally as well. And the scope to allow them to grow. That's why we had worked hard and partnered with the, we joined, as he said, the second pillar was to become a member of the Caribbean Network of Service Coalition. So we're now part of a broader
Okay, so
umbrella.
you have collaborated with sister
With
CSIs.
sister
You have
CSIs,
done that.
yes.
What about convening?
We secured resources to build out the program, and now we're in the process of sensitizing and conveying the type of information to the relevant sectors.
Sure.
And then, Mr. William, to add further, with this week of activity, we are having 2 export
Okay, yes.
coming in here. Miss
Policy experts, are the policy experts?
Okay, for
One is a
the
policy.
regional service of collision of services, we have Miss Yvonne Agard from St. Lucia, who is CARICOM, one of CARICOM better brains and that, and we have a policy advisor, trade specialist in
Okay.
From Caribbean Export.
from Caribbean Export. She
So
will
that will be for
be
the symposium.
For the
symposium, and I think one of them is to be around the
Thursday night.
round table
on Thursday.
Thursday night.
Okay, I suppose before we leave, you will tell us a little bit more about
Sure.
this. But have you, as a local CSI, developed, for example, like a trade barrier list?
Oh, we're in the process of doing that.
A trade barrier
Yes,
list.
yes. I mean, the whole objective of this week of activities is really to finally launch and kick
Okay.
off our activities. So a lot of it is still early, work still. We're still in the process of getting our feet wet in a number of different areas.
Sure.
But we definitely would be preparing a lot of pamphlets for the different sectors. After our launch, we'll be meeting with some of the different sector organizations and also groupings to highlight some of the issues, so that way we'll be able to then formulate a policy paper
Okay.
that we can get government to
Okay,
engage
fine,
on.
great.
Yeah.
Now, before we go to the phone lines, because we have to go to the phone lines, I want you to tell us specifically about the launch. When is it? Where is it? Time? Who's invited?
Correct.
All of that.
Okay. Before or after?
Now, tell us
All
now.
right. Okay. Well, on Friday, this Friday, we're going to be at the Ocean Terrace Inn, starting from 9, so it's nice and sweet, 9 to 12. As Mr. Warner indicated, we have 2 feature speakers. Miss Yvonne Agard, she is the Executive Director of the St. Lucia Coalition of Service Industries. She's also responsible for spearheading, in partnership with the OECS Secretariat, an OECS coalition push, because I think we see strength in numbers, and since we've already partnered regionally, we thought it's best we can also leverage that. And then she's also the chair of the Caribbean Network of Coalition of Service Industry, so she's a big powwow. She has as her background policy. She's really good on the policy side and lobbying, and she really has an in-depth way of actually bringing to the fore the whole concept of how we can come together under umbrella to network and so on. Then we have Miss Allison Francis. She is the trade services specialist at Caribbean Export, which is a regional agency that focuses on private sector development. They've been responsible for implementing the 9th and the 10th EDF programs for the European Commission. So they get the private sector development components under them. We can do a lot of the trade missions and so on. So she's the officer responsible, and she will be highlighting opportunities that we can get as Kitishans and divisions, you know, in the EPA, which is official come January. So we know we have an open market, but she would at least be able to address these expectations. Now we are inviting persons from various industries. If you are a service provider, non-tourism, well, even tourism could come, but if you're a service provider, non-tourism, you know, be it logistics services, health and wellness and spa, that's a growing area. Would like to see you come out. You're in the creative services sector, and that could be music, that could be that could be performing arts as well. I've seen a lot of people in the performing arts. You could even be an artisan drawing, and you can offer services as well. Personal care, if you're also in new sectors like energy management, all the engineers, all the bankers and insurance, financial services, you're key. Architects as well. We invite you, everyone who's in the IT sector. I think you owe it to yourself to see what kind of opportunities you have. Even medical services, because as you know, you have different health and wellness spa and medical tourism opportunities that you can take advantage of. Security services, let me see. We have a lot of real estate service providers in the country, so I expect to see at least 30 on Friday. Management consultants, come out. I know we recently formed an OECS chapter of the management consulting chapter, but then we still need to at least formalize ourselves as a St. Kitts and Nevis core. So all of you come out. Health services, I think I've listed all. Education services, that's also a big growing sector. So once you are a service provider, we ask you to come out. We also have asked those persons who are interested in staying after the launch. We have a window of opportunity in the afternoon from 1 o'clock to have consultations with the experts. So we can do that in an organized manner. You can get in touch with the Ministry of Trade. And as for Miss Powell, is she Miss Powell? Yes.
Okay, so we're having a quite interesting discussion on, really, if we can call it the heart of our economy, that of the service sector, which in a lot of ways has become the engine of growth in St. Kitts and Nevis. I have with me Mr. Lena Bwana, big man, Mr. Terry Onua, and Miss. Sorry, I'm marrying you.
I don't know.
Did I say Mr.? What did I say?
Mr.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm very sorry. Telly Onua, Miss Telly Onua, and Mr. Rodney Brown. We are going to open the phone lines, and we welcome your calls. We want to hear from you. And the numbers to call are 465-2555. That's the local number, 465-2555. And the overseas number is 1-718-577-2916. That is 1-718-577-2916. We welcome your calls. Working for you, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Williams, and your guest there, wonderful contractors.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Bwana. Now, Mr. Bwana, we have a lot of people in St. Kitts. Let me speak for St. Kitts. They go around with a big 4-foot level and a tape and they call themselves mason. When a contractor hire them now, and they put them to work on the bill on a house, do the contractor go back and check to see if the job is perfectly done, or they just let them jump in the truck and go home? Because I have seen houses that a lot of contractors build, and when you lay down in the house or just sit down and look up, just looking at the rafters, you could see the rafters are square with the frame of the house. So I want to know if the contractor they just pick them up and go home so without checking the house. And if that is so, maybe that is the reason why a lot of them don't get big work. Anyway, thanks for listening.
I think I know the voice, and I would like to say that I know you as a tradesman over the years, and I know you know for a fact that every contractor, especially reputable contractor, have a foreman, and a foreman in his duty are to check on the daily task that is given. But irregardless, I also believe that sometimes it ain't every day you pick up what have happened. But over the years, the quality has been deteriorating, and the continuation of people who is not really qualified coming bosses has made it much more difficult. And one of the areas we have recognized it is a lot of the NHC homes. The Contract Association have sat with government on numerous occasions and tried to help to guide them along their policy. But you know that the St. Kitts Nevis and Anguilla Technical College have raised the standard of craftsmen in this country. And what we are seeing today is really most hurtful. And as you say, I remember one time a guy walked on the road with a 4-foot level and he said he had 4 O levels. So I don't know if the 4 O levels is really the 4-foot level or the 4-foot level to prove his level of competency with each craft that is expected of him.
Right. Are service providers collaborating with each other? What do you find?
My experience working with a lot of service providers.
This number call. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, sir.
And to the people from where they're from.
The architectician?
No. What do you mean? From what
the Coalition of Service Industries.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that gentleman there, to be truthful, he makes some good presentation. I hear him on the next radio station, and he was talking about sharpening the skill, especially the young woman in the Federation.
That is
They got to
Mr.
get
Warner.
a trade. Eh?
That is Mr. Lennox Warner.
Mr. Lena Bwana. Oh,
Yes.
that's Mr. Warner there?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. They got to get a trade, they got to get a skill, and he's all right. Because a lot of our young men in the Federation just jumping short because they want to indulge themselves, maybe in gang, or just on the road liming, and other people coming in and getting our construction work, getting things done, and they say they can't get nothing done. So I just want the young man in this country to try to. Up to last night, I was in a place in McKnight, and I was talking to some young man, and they telling me plain they want a job. I said, oh, the politician they ain't coming to us. I said, no, the politician them not coming to you. They ain't got to come to you. You all got to go out there because government create work, bring in hotel, bring in all kind of whatever programs they create. You got to go and go look a job. They cannot find a job for you like that. And I said that you see a lot of you young man, right? You all put yourself in a lot of things. So you all can't go out of your all area to look a job. That is your problem. So I believe that Mr. Warner, you're doing a good job. I never know you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to wish you all the best and continue to do what you do. As a farmer, I mean a senior construction man in the
Do
Federation.
you have any question?
All right.
King for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Working for me, I'm working quite well.
Okay.
Due to the fact of certain circumstances of principle, my name is James Davis. All right, since I've been getting my house here at Pleasant View, my house been leaking all the time, and I keep on reporting to the NSC concerning it, and nobody's paying me no mind and different things like this. Yeah. And then after that, they come now and they put on an extra piece and different things like that. Then we understand that. Nobody again is paying them for what they have done and different things like that. But at least if you put somebody in a house, don't you think the house is supposed to fix properly? Due to the fact of certain circumstances or principle of technology. So when you say it's working for you, things can work for you in several different ways. But really use them. And I just see a carbon bashing the youths them and different things like that. You cannot bash the youths. Because all youths do not grow up the same. And everybody have a fault. It's not one of us is righteous. And people have to learn to understand these things. We have to give the youth them a chance to make the future comes. We have to try and train the youth them in the proper manner of wisdom. We can't afford to bash the youth.
Sure. Okay. Yes.
And due to the fact of certain circumstances of principle, right? I'm very proud of you, Mr. William, with your working for your program and different things like that there. But I appreciate very much if you all try to pay my role from a little attention and get me a boxing academy, please. Just get me a boxing academy. Because that's what I went to America to study for.
Right.
To train boxers and train youth.
Okay,
maybe if I had
Davis.
a boxing academy, I won't have to drink a beer. I won't have to drink nothing but just water.
Thank
you.
Understand? Thank you.
You have a nice day. Change my life, and I will change yours. And I will make the youth them better in the federation for you and this country. Remember James Davis says it today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Working for you, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Working for you.
Yes.
I hope it really works for me. Yes, this house what you are building right now, I hope there ain't a problem with them, you know. Because as I was hearing earlier talking, right? This house, you all, whoever over them, you all need to go around, whoever the manager be, to see that the house them do properly. Because a lot of them, right, they're going to take the government money, and when rain comes, the black soil them going to be getting full of water and leaking back into the house itself. They have some house right now overloading. And the what you call it, the toilet and them, some people toilet done caking up. And you have a problem again, other about part of the house about them. So you all said up green and pasture, you know, because listen to you all good, make sure you to come every night, you know. That is going to be better. Now I hear him complain again about chaos, just sitting down in some house too. And they in the room them inappropriate, so I don't know who fooling who. Because I listen to you all the time and you're saying every time they keep in a open
Okay,
forum.
thank you so much for your call. Right, I don't want this to turn into a program on housing, because it's really a program about services and the coalition of services, and I agree coming out of that, maybe, you know, we can speak about the importance that is being given in building capacity in the services sector. Building capacity, training opportunities, getting ourselves globally ready and so on. I mean, if we're going to have, for example, you know, contractors or people doing building and so on, it speaks to how well they're trained, what sort of service they are really providing. Is it shoddy work? Is it, I mean, we have, for example, here we have what you call it? The building
board.
The building board. That is to see that there are proper standards and so on that are being implemented, and so on. So, you know, but the discussion is much bigger and broader than that.
Right.
It is about how we can, yes, get ourselves globally ready to be a part of the whole global market in terms of services and all of that. What is being done to market services globally.
Okay. What is being done to market services globally? Well, best practice tend to be initiatives like. Don't
please tell him which we're pushing to carry first, which is the music and the arts.
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah.
I'm getting there. Best practice tend to be using platforms to promote and so on. So what we've done is, in the creative services sector, there's already an initiative underway through the Department of Culture, which is the registry. So the idea of the registry is a little bit more than a registry. It's not just registering persons who are in the creative services sector, but also providing them with a web presence to allow them to market themselves. So that is just one initiative which we're partnering with the Department of Culture. Again, earlier I would have mentioned we're going to be rolling out the Business of Music program, which is more like a 12-week, it's almost like a acceleration program really, that would take them from the whole concept of their business model, how to organize, how to build a team, because you might have someone who's a musician but not necessarily have a proper team. So that whole team management and so on will be covered in there. Issues of intellectual property. A lot of times I've discussed with some of the artists and they complain, or they won't go to that man to produce their songs because he takes too much money. But what they don't understand is, well, he probably helped you write the lyrics, so there's a percentage for that. He helped you produce. He did the engineering as well. So all these percentages, sometimes individual artists don't fully understand the business of music and how the industry works. Also, we talked about technology and e-commerce. Specifically for the music industries, you have opportunities for an independent label artist to use a technology platform to distribute their music. So you have platforms out there like Tidal and so on, and they would learn the differences, how to identify those platforms, the differences between them, how much commissions each platforms take, because nothing is really ever free, you know. So which ones are free for you to sign up, which ones you have to pay for. So those are the type of content that they'll be delivering. And then of course, very critical is a module on marketing and promotion. So they themselves will be empowered to learn and understand how themselves as artists can also to market and promote themselves. There's a component in there, I think, also that touches on that networking,
yes,
collaboration, and partnerships and so on. So no longer are you just that singer. You know, no longer do you just have your band, but you now have a framework within which you can further develop your business and also be competitive internationally and market as well.
You know, one of the things in the services sector that probably needs to be given some more emphasis is that on proper communication.
Correct.
Elaborate.
Elaboration having to do with people not having soft skills,
Okay.
courteousness, being courteous, professional behavior, and that sort of thing. And especially we are in a service-based economy, and people have to learn,
That
you
is
know,
true.
those proper communication skills, those
Critical.
soft skills. Otherwise, you can't want people, you can't be providing a service, and yet on one hand, you are the complete opposite of what you're providing. You're a real turn-off.
I understand what you mean, because there's a difference between hustling and running a business.
Tell
you
us
know?
the difference.
I mean, you had to be a go-getter and a hustler, but from a professional perspective on communication, like this week, I had an incident where the person, you know, as a hustler, needs it now and whatever now, but in business, sometimes you need whatever process it is, sometimes it could take a day or 2 extra days. So it calls for a little patience and a little temperament. Of course, they weren't patient or temperament. They were just, fighting. So I say, you can't do business like this. You can't go out in the world and do business like this. Then nobody's going to see you as, valid. Because what you're doing is hustling, like you're acting like a crackhead, like a short-term hustler, as opposed to looking at it within the context of, in a professional world, this is how the business operates. And normally you'd have to wait 1-2 days for an internal process to go through and so on. And even if maybe something was late and you justifies a little anger and so on, but when you explain this is the process, at least you should know how to respond and in line, so
because we are not just, as you said in the beginning, we are not just about now providing goods, but services have become a lot of what we provide, and especially in a competitive market for services. If we are not really providing a good service,
correct.
If we are not providing a quality service, and so on, and all of that sometimes, is how we communicate, how we market,
and how we brand,
and how we brand the services and so on. We won't be very competitive at all. We will really lose out in this market.
Yep.
I agree with you. Yeah. So
and for
definitely
example,
the courses that we have also cover some of that, and a lot of it will be also under emotional intelligence as well.
Emotional
because
intelligence.
That is something that we found from a personal development perspective is missing.
It is very missing. Sometimes you go somewhere and somebody might be saying something to you, but their body language is really telling you to go and yourself. And they're not very conscious about their body language.
Body language, yes.
And things like that. But I suppose that Mr. Warner and the two of you have outlined some of the service issues that you have encountered. And
just before we since we're wrapping up.
Almost.
Right. We will be launching a website as well that would have a lot more information in terms of what the SKNCSI is about, the opportunities, benefits, etc. So Friday we will have the official launch of the
website as well. Yeah. Okay, that will be a good thing to provide information.
Yeah.
Mr. William, before I wrapped up, I want to say one of the things that I have recognized in the change of service in my country is the lack of good parenting. People tend to think that the achievement of a bigger home, a television, in maybe a personal bedroom, and now they have a fridge and a deep freeze and a car, has brought them to a level that they don't need to even say good morning. And if you lost those type of values, you cannot present a quality service. And that is one of the things that we are finding in the entire service industry that is lacking in St. Kitts. People believe that you owe them something. You walk into a restaurant and even they provide the best meal, the person that is serving you sometimes is so unpleasant. They are so off that they even make you don't even want to eat the food or leave. The general attitude of preparing our people has got to go back to parental responsibilities. When a child is being allowed to wake up to go to school for 8 o'clock and come out of bed, just have a shower, sometimes don't even eat in the vehicle. Are you preparing them for the world of works or to be a good citizen? The answer is no. And these are the fundamentals that we are faced with, and we are going to continue to suffer. We have now the choice of a lot of, the more people come into your country, the more the status quo will change. And the more we are going to have an argument, but service is not asking for people whether you're born here or there. It's delivering a quality service, and service in itself is under the umbrella of the St. Kitts Coalition of Service that we, an industry, we are fighting to return. And with technology, we will do everything to make sure that St. Kitts Nevis is a place to compete with every part in this world. Thank you.
Ms. Onua?
My last takeaway, service is not servitude. They're two different things.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times, because of the history of the region, we tend to think if we have to give you something, for you to be pleasant and nice and everything, it must be servitude. So this whole mentality of
being a
slavery
slave.
day is over. Don't tell me whatever. But the thing about it is having to understand that for every business, the customer is who you're delivering the value for. No matter whether you're a big business or you're a small business, your bottom line depends on that end delivery service to that customer. So when they say customer is king, really is. But
you
it's
would have
not,
no business
but
without
you
the
have no
customer.
business without a customer. But it's not servitude. You can't look at it from the mindset of servitude. It's just that you have to think from the concept of your salary, the money you're making, everything comes from delivering a
genuine service.
So you have to be genuine, and that service you have to move from even delivering a service to an experience. So if everybody took it upon themselves to deliver a unique experience to that end customer, it would improve overall level of service in the country.
And your launch is when again?
On Friday.
It's on Friday?
This Friday, OTI.
OTI.
From 9 o'clock to 12.
From 9 to 12.
Yes, and it's an open invitation.
Open invitation. Mr. Brown.
Yes, I'll make it short in just suggesting that there's a world of opportunity out there, and we need to first apply the correct lens to see them, acquire the right skill set and mindset to seize them, and that's why I'll leave it.
Good. Well, I want to thank all three of you, Mr. Warner, Miss Onua, and Mr. Brown, for coming and sharing with us the importance of services and the service sector to our economy. How we must not only think locally, but we have to start preparing ourselves to think regionally and globally, because we are in a competitive world. Services are driving economies, and in St. Kitts, it's basically the service sector that is now driving the economy. We have moved away somewhat from the agrarian monoculture, and we are now more diversified in our economy. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure having this discussion to you, and I look forward to your launch on Friday from 9 to 12 at the Ocean Terrace Inn. You have been listening to another edition of Working for You. I want to thank all of you who listened to today's program, those of you who called in and shared your views, asked your questions, gave suggestions. We appreciate it very much. We will be back next week for another edition of Working for You. I am Les Roy Williams. Have a good day.
Working for You. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Les Roy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for You.